Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite Creator. And I continue to pray that every day each and every one of you will accept and receive the healings, the knowledge, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. And I continue to pray for all those folks who are sick with ailments and so forth, and hope that everybody is doing as well as possible under the circumstances. Now, with that said, this is a little bit of a rant, a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, but it sort of goes along with people's mentality today. Now, lights in the graveyard. Now, I have seen lights in a graveyard. I've taken pictures of orbs in graveyards years ago. And I was a graveyard hunter and finding old graveyards around here down in South Georgia, visiting them, doing rubbings and things. And here in the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years, I've noticed there's this weird change in like tombstone kind of stuff. Okay. So I'm driving, there's a up here on the road. What started this was um, Miss Deb and I went to the store today, which was closed, by the way, because of the virus scare. Um, and we go by this the cemetery that's down the road this way, and across the river is another cemetery. Well, driving by, and I remembered there's a light, different colored lights in the cemetery on the tombstones. So I bring up this thing. Hello, Alex. How are you? I bring up this thing to Deb and I say, listen, over the years and blah, blah, blah. And I got started on this little thing and I got to thinking, number one, why is a light necessary at night in a graveyard when there's nobody there? That's the number one thing. Okay, let's just start right there. Who in their right mind thinks that lights on a tombstone are a good idea? I don't know. Maybe the spirits at night are going to bump into something. You know what I'm saying? I can't figure it out. There's something that just is enormously wrong with this picture. So years ago, living between two of them, I see these weird lights at night through the woods. And I'm like, what's going on? And during the wintertime, right now, the leaves are coming on the trees, so you can't see through the woods like you could. But in the wintertime, you can see a long way through the woods. And there are these little sparkly lights coming from the cemetery. And I'm going, what the hell is going on? I'm thinking, oh my God, the spooks are really, the spirits are really active tonight. So I do a little checking and I drive over and I find out there are tiny little LED lights on the tombstones. And I'm thinking to myself, there's already this great big church light, okay, that lights up the whole area. But now there are tiny little lights on tombstones. So, and I went to visit a friend of mine, and I'm driving along, and it's dark 30, and I notice off to my left, I'm looking at where this old graveyard is, and it's an old graveyard, boy. There's the folks back there from the 1800s. Before around here, that's fairly old. Anyway, so um, I'm driving along and I look over to my left and there's this hovering white light in the graveyard. And I'm like, hit the brakes. So I slow down. What the hell is going on? And I back up and I look and I'm like, there's this hovering light in the graveyard. This is out in the woods, out in the country. It's 15 miles from town. Okay. It's not near anything, right? An old crossroads. And lo and behold, I pull up into the thing, just wondering what the hell is going on. And I see this tiny little LED light on top of this big memorial piece of granite they got there, stating that it's sort of like a family cemetery. And I'm like, okay, why do we need a light on this thing at night? So my brain goes into this thing. What the hell are people thinking that they need to have a light in a cemetery? Now, if anybody goes to a cemetery at night, like I used to do, and may still do, who knows? but I'm gonna carry a flashlight. So there's already a light there. How many people are expecting to have lights in the graveyard? Not me. If I go up to a graveyard at night, which is like, what would you do that for? But my thinking on this is, why do people? Who's the salesman that sells the LED lights on the tombstones? And I'm going to say, what? Because this has got to be one of the strangest, craziest things, the sales items. Lights on sneakers, I can kind of see that as a fatty thing. Um, but fad-ish thing, not fatty. But anyway, but looking at the world, and I think to myself, what have we become when we think that LED lights on a tombstone is a good idea? I'm just wondering. With all the other confusion and things that are going on in the universe, LED lights on a tombstone? And it's becoming a popular thing on more recent gravestones. And I'm like, what is the deal here? Okay, so, but who wants to have a cemetery lit up at night? Um, and who is the salesman? I see. I used to sell cemetery property way back in the day. Didn't have much luck at it. I guess you could say I really didn't dig it, you know. But yeah, a little graveside humor there. But to the point though, I still I'm like, there's got to be a sales pitch in there. There's got to be a sales pitch. You can light up your loved one's tombstone, and so that there will be a perpetual light. Just change the batteries once a year on your loved one's gravestone, and we will include different colored light. I mean, the one down here has got a blue light and a green light. And I'm like, I thought it was aliens landing one night. I was out for a walk and I seen these weird lights up the hill, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? It's lights from the graveyard. So I just, in pondering all of this over the years, it just kind of brought this to a head tonight as I was talking with Miss Deb on the way to the store and back, sort of. I was like, honestly, do dead people need light at night? Do the salesmen look at the people and go, hey, look, listen, we know your loved ones, their spirits might rise, and we got these really great lights, and we got these green ones and red ones and blue ones and purple ones. I saw a purple one, yeah, and there's the really bright light white, just LED light, like a headlamp. Holy crap, moly! I just have to say, there's enough craziness going on in this world that to put lights in the graveyard, and that it's a cool thing to do. Okay. I guess that's humanity. That's how far we've come. They won't take flowers and put them on the gravesite, but they'll put LED lights on them so that it'll freak people out in the middle of the night, wondering where the hell those green and blue lights are from. Coming from the cemetery. Hey, Millie Cow. I'm glad I'm supposed to be cracking you up because I think that this is one of the most absurd things. And I'm thinking to myself, all them dead people bumping into each other, they got to have a light. You know what I'm saying? The next thing they'll be putting in a water fountain, or maybe they'll put up a canopy for the, for the folk. You do have a point though. I know. People can do what they want to do, but the thing is that when I went by the thing, I was like, holy shit, the lights are still on. Some of these people in this graveyard up here, upstanding community citizens, not what I knew about them. So, but they've got lights on. Oh, I'm hoping that the lights are off. I want them spirits out of here. Don't give them a chance to see in the dark. Let them bump into shit. No, don't help them. And if they're in the spirit realm anyway, they're supposed to see in the dark. So I still don't see the reason for LED lights in cemeteries. I just don't get it. I mean, if they were lights along the path or something, maybe, going into the cemetery at night and lights, and I worked for 2 different cemeteries down in Tampa when I lived down there. So, you got entrance lights, okay, but on the tombstones, no, I think we've gone too far. I really do. I mean, there's the part of my brain that goes nuts and goes wacko like Sam Kinison, like, are you crazy? LED lights on a tombstone? What are these people thinking? And I think to myself, look, my face is getting red. I'm imitating, but I'm thinking to myself, uh, we've gone insane. We have literally crossed over into a new realm when people think it's groovy or a cool idea to put LED lights in a cemetery at for nighttime. I'm all for beautification. But don't we already have enough light pollution on this planet that people have to light up cemeteries? So this is pretty much it for my rant. I'm hoping that maybe I tickled your side just a little bit. And just insanity rules on so many levels. What else are they going to think of? I don't know. Maybe they've got little air conditioning units inside the coffin. When I was in the funerary business, oh, they were talking about this casket and that casket and this casket. Oh my goodness. As a machinist, I saw caskets that came in and I was like, you want $5,000 for that tin can? Are you nuts? And they were going, shh, quiet. It only costs us 400. It's a really nice markup, and their bereavement, and so they'll sell the dumbest things for $1,000. Well, for another $1,000, we'll throw this in. Really? Oh yeah, battery operated fan to keep the body cool. Oh, come. They'll sell anything to people, especially for that. I remember listening to some of the sales pitches, and I've given them myself, Well, Mr. Jones, this particular piece of property for you and your loved one, not necessarily your wife, but for you and your loved one to rest eternally. What if you don't want to rest? What if eternally is like a really long ass time and you decide not to? But the loved ones are going to put a light on for you. We'll leave a light on for you. Motel 6. So now the new thing will probably be, I remember when I was in the business years ago in the 70s, they were talking about, the funerary practices in New Orleans, for example. The muck is so bad. You dig down so far. New Orleans is in the Delta. It doesn't sit on the Delta. It's in the Delta. So those cemeteries downtown and so forth, they have to put concrete on them so they don't float back up. I mean, and so they had gotten to the point where there were so many old graves in some of the cemeteries. Now, this was way back, that they couldn't find out where the records were, and the records were burned. So they were burying people on top of other people and charging them like, you can live on top of your loved one. Do you want the husband to be on top or the wife? We can switch it out if you want. Every couple of years, we'll pull you out and put you back in and swap you. How about that? I was like, are you people nuts? And that was back in the 70s. And I can't imagine what it has become now. But, here's an interesting thing about funerries and things of that nature. LMAO, my ass off to there, Millie Cow. Hey, a water fountain is useful. Yes, I know, especially for the dead people. Hi, Jody. After all that for a coffin, well, I guess dying in style is is a one-way rest. Yep. And one of the things I found out years ago, you can buy a coffin yourself online, and they're not really that expensive. You can have them shipped to your front door. And I'm like, what? So, I could build a pine box, and there are people who they have these really nice cardboard boxes. I mean, it's really heavy duty cardboard. It's for people who choose to die at home, and family members and whatever. And they have these heavy duty cardboard boxes, and they look just like coffins, and people, they pick the person up and put them in, and then they haul them off to wherever they're going to go bury them. But I'm like, so, it's like you can literally do it dirt cheap. So this idea of I've been watching this Social Security thing, only $250 to bury your ass. Okay, well, I could pour gasoline and make a fire. Never mind. And oh, by the way, cremation. People say, well, cremation is blah 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 blah, and on the bones they turn to dust. No, they don't. A lot of the big bones don't turn to dust. They have to put them in a grinder. So people say, what do you mean? They have to dustify them. The bigger bones, they beat up with a mallet and toss them in a grinder and make sure that they turn it into powder. Because not all the bones are really hard to, and once all the smaller bones are gone, they go, that's enough. They scrape you out and dump you in a pail, and then they break the rest of the bones up. People say, well, that's the best way to go. Oh, okay. If you want to put it in a pulverizing machine and stuck in an urn, just the name urn kind of gives me urny feelings. But anyway, but not to be morbid about this, when I'm gone, is it really going to matter? Because if this old tired ass body's going to lift up from the grave after that resurrection, I want a new one. I'm sorry. Or I don't want to come back into this one. You know what I mean? I've had enough of this. If that's my only choice, then okie doke. But anyway, so my friends, this is just a little bit of a tirade about how crazy people have really gotten off on track. Millie cow, I can just be buried under a tree. Don't embalm me or waste money on a box. Just let me feed the tree. That's the way I feel, Millie cow. The only problem with that, and this old cemetery I was telling you about, you came on a little late, but that's just up the road from me a couple of miles. It's a really old cemetery. And I was walking along, and this is back when I first moved here back in the 80s. And I was up there, traipsing around and looking at the old graves and markers and stuff, and literally fell into an old grave. And so those old graves can hurt you. I mean, I felt like this 2 foot. I was up past my knee, just straight down into the grave. Now I didn't go into the coffin, but that's the reason why they have concrete vaults. And I don't think that's such a bad idea. I really don't. Then they pile the dirt back on you, kind of thing, and tamp it down. But other than that, pile a bunch of rocks on me. I told my son years ago, it's probably one reason why he won't speak to me. I said, when I get old and feeble, I said, just take me up into the mountains and let a bear eat me. What? And he hasn't spoken to me since, after I asked him, well, you're my son, you take me up to the mountain, and he hasn't spoken to me since. I'm serious about it. So, but anyway, the idea of death and dying and what's going to happen to us and all that, if cremation is one of those things, then okay, you're not going to know anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's what the loved ones see on the other side. But there are a lot of people who think, well, this is like the cleanest way to go. Yeah, I worked in the funerary business. You should check and make sure. And there are those, Millie Cal, there's a place, maybe it's in North Alabama or North Georgia, or maybe it's Tennessee. And it's a body farm. And you can donate your body, and they might put you in a freezer. They could sit you out underneath a tree. They literally have acres of dead bodies in different states of decomposure. Well, okay, it's science. They get to study you. They'll come around and check on you once in a while. You could be famous in so many ways and help out with, forensic pathology kind of thing. So why not? That sounds like a better deal. Just donate me, but don't put me in no box. Nah, if you got to lay me out somewhere, okay. But I don't think I want to. Don't put me in a refrigerator and say, well, I wonder how long it'll take for him to turn purple, or blow up or whatever. I don't know. Maybe that would be fun. I don't know. I'm gonna have to consider it, but I won't be here to tell. That's the biggest thing. But so the absurdity of LED lights or any kind of lights. Now, I can see like this church over here. I love the church down here. They got a big security light in the parking lot. Well, they have services at night. Now, that's for the people, but Maybe it's for people, the lights on the tombstones, or for after church services on Wednesday evenings, they can go out into the graveyard and pay their respects. Do it in the daytime or do it before it gets dark. But the rest of us have to look at it anyway. So there's my tirade for this evening. Millie cow, blessings. The difficult thing is there are laws about how long a body can be kept without embalming because they start to rot. Did you know what? Now, it's been 20 years ago when we buried my pops. You don't have to be embalmed, it's not a requirement. They will just stick your tiny little dead ass body in a freezer until it's time for transportation. They literally will put you on ice, like in the morgues. But yes, that's true. But they've got perfumes and things and stuff that they do in the in the funeral homes and all that. Dr. Setzman, how are you? I want a burial laid out in the open woods with with the arse upwards. I don't know. I'd kind of like to see the sky facing down. They used to bury them like curled up in the fetal position. The old in some of the old ways. And blessings, doctor. How are you? Good to see you on. But the idea, though, that the funerary practices. I mean, there were those ancient, I don't want to say Aztecs per se, but ancient Indian tribes and traditions that they buried their relatives in the floor. Grandma, we're sitting on grandma. What? But it wasn't in some kind of sick, thing. It was in respect and honor of the dead to keep them alive. And I think to myself, I know where my pops is buried, and he's down in Tampa somewhere. I don't even know where my mother's buried. She's up in Ohio someplace. I think. I don't know if she was cremated or not. Anyway, but to the point is like, I have memories of them, but not like other cultures do. The Japanese, for example, and the Chinese too, some cultures. And the Mexican people are very, the Day of the Dead, for example, which is All Saints Day in the Catholic religion, but it's to honor the dead and the and our relatives and friends and so forth, and to offer them meals of, one day a year, you offer them a meal of, their favorite, whatever they loved or whatever. Anyway, I think it's great tradition. And there are a lot of people who just refuse to even pay attention to any type of, I hate to use the word ritual, but in a way it is. Hey, Michelle, how are you? You're never late. You just show up when you can, and that's okay. We love you anyway. But so funerary practices, but there were those who were like you were buried like, your hands touching your feet, so that you were like bent in half and buried this away, kind of looking up with your butt in the ground. I okay. Is it really gonna matter to me though? That's I've pondered it, and as old as I'm getting, I'm like, I have to think about these things, not in a morbid sort of way, but if something does happen to me, I'm like, where do I want to be buried? Well, because I own this property, there are certain stipulations, but why can't you just plant me up on the hill? That was my 10 cents worth. Or, well, you got to get special dispensation from the governor, and well, maybe not the governor, but and to like have a family plot here. Property's already paid for. Why should I pay for a plot somewhere else? I've lived here for 40 years almost. Why go plant me someplace that I'm not used to? I mean, hey, I deserve to be buried here. Put me down in the swamp. I'll be gone in a couple of years. There won't even be any bones left. But why am I on the subject of funerals, right? But the idea, though, that I don't want anybody putting no LED lights on my tombstone, please. No, don't, Hawkeye don't want none of that stuff. Hang a feather. Do something like that. Light a candle once in a while if you feel so inclined. But for God's sakes, no LEDs on my tombstone if there is one. But anyway. So, my friends, I'm ranted on about this subject and God, funerary stuff. But with all this virus stuff, it's got people thinking morbid stuff. Doc says, "Hey, David, a long time no see. I always thought it's strange to bury the physical body underground, or even worse. I like the thought of being slowly processed by nature." I agree with you. And when I told my son, I said, hey, take me to the mountains and just let me get eaten by a bear. That was a morbid thought to him. He's like, well, I wouldn't do that. No, but you'd let me rot in a nursing home, and then what? Put me in a box and dump me in the ground somewhere. Would you do that? I don't know. He's pretty much gave up on me. So I don't guess I'm going to the mountains, when I'm getting old and feeble and don't know. I mean, I'd rather just go ahead. If I'm so old and feeble, let me fall off the side of a mountain and be that. And let the, great spirit and nature take me. There ought to be a place where old people can just go and sit in a cave until they pass away. I mean, in the old days, that's what they did with them. And I used to think, oh my God, that's so cruel. That doesn't really sound so cruel anymore. Like that, I could see just kind of hibernate away and pass on. That's not such a bad way to go, die in your sleep or whatever. And if you do it in a meditative state and you're kind of old and feeble anyway, then it wouldn't be hard to just allow your spirit to leave. Well, okay. But no LED lights, for God Almighty's sake, No LED lights, no, please. No street lamps in the middle of I don't know. Anyway, Billy Kelsos, Doc, I agree. Why all the attempts for preservation? Why wouldn't you want to return back to the cycle of nature? Yeah, I had great issues with having my pops embalmed. It was really cheap, but the idea of having all of your innards sucked out and I was like, and then pumped full of formaldehyde. I'm like, don't do it to me. I'm sorry. No, I've had enough chemicals in my body in my lifetime. I don't want to be preserved. I mean, it's worse than pickling me, for God's sakes. I think I want to go back to dust. From dust we came, and from dust we shall return. I don't think that's such a bad idea. But for God's sakes, no LED lights. I'm going to hammer that one home just for the hell of it. Doc says the old nature versus nurture discussion. Maybe the problem with today's society is that we don't think from the skulls of our enemies anymore. Oh, we don't drink from the skulls of our enemies anymore, metaphorically speaking, or regularly speaking. Miso Dunsk, I want to go like a cat. Since the time getting close, and then go survival camping where no one will ever look. That's kind of my thing. Let me go to the swamp one day, and somebody asked me, well, you go to the river all the time by yourself, and aren't you afraid? If something happens to me down there, I'll be with nature and God and Creator. What a better way to go. I've already had my turn at 3 days in 102-degree weather and drowning a couple of times, and another really bad, almost freezing to death several times. For myself, it's like maybe it wouldn't be so hard to just like let go. I've been really close too many times for my own sake. But each time I come back stronger with a little bit more knowledge of something. And that's one of the reasons why, my last really severe episode of near death, the angels talked to me and they said, you can't give up. You got to go back. You got a mission. And I'm like, but what is it? You'll find out. Just trust us. Go back. Let's show you around the spirit realm a little bit. And then we're going to take you back home. And, which is about what happened. But holy mackerel, moly. But anyway, Yeah, go like a cat. I had an old dog. I mean, the dog was about 22 years old. I mean, oh my gosh, this dog was old. And it was during one of that, it was that same summer. Well, no, it wasn't. It was a different summer. It was the summer before my issue, but it was 102 in August, dog days. And the dog wandered outside. And I was like, he was sick and not doing too well. And I knew I was going to have to bury him. And I looked for that dog to the point where I got heat exhaustion and damn near didn't make it back to the house myself. I mean, I literally crawled through the brambles to get back to the house from down yonder. Never did find that dog or his skeleton. So I'm wondering if he just didn't walk off into the spirit world somewhere. He was that kind of a dog. But anyway, my friends, I love you. It's been 30 minutes. It's great hanging out with you here on this Thursday night, I think. Tomorrow's the first day of spring officially. Actually, it's officially 12:03 Eastern Daylight Time. And so it's officially spring. So I hope you all are feeling really nice and bouncy. And the idea of putting an egg upright during the equinox, I tried it all over the years. Oh, it's a sham. Oh, it's a sham. People say, oh, yeah. Listen, you can learn how you can balance an egg on the bottom without it being the equinox. But anyway, so happy vernal equinox, everybody, and a belated St. Patty's Day. So to those of you out there, my dear friends and colleagues in this league of like-minded beings, understand that your prayers are always welcomed and thankful. And I hope you know that I continue to pray for each and every one of you. And then after only 31 minutes, I'm going to make this a short video. For me, 31 minutes is that's a record breaker. But I think that you all know that we need to use a little bit of practicality. Millie Cow, thank you. Miso, Doc, thank you. Note to self, says Millie Cow. The neighbors do not find it amusing when you dress up medieval style, push your wheelbarrow through the streets and yell, bring out your dead. And I did for you. Thank you, Michelle. I know you did. And all of us, thank you. Your prayers are always welcomed. And I know you guys send me little prayers and thank yous. And thank you. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. So without further ado, let's shut this little video down. I love you all. Thank you so much. Be kind to yourself and to your neighbors and stay centered and focused. Don't let this scary stuff scare you. Remember, and there are a lot of other people out there. Dante did another video for those of you who know about Dante. And, let's not go crazy over this like other people are doing. So just be safe, be careful, and stay healthy. So I will end with this with the prayer as always, and cosmic hugs to all you folks. Millie Cow, blessings, continued blessings to you, and you, Michelle, and Doc, and oh man, I missed Miso, Donsk, the Donsk. Anyway, much love here. I continue to pray that each and every one of you will accept and receive the healing, the gifts, the knowledge, and the wisdom of the universe. I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you will learn to accept and receive the healing, the knowledge, and the wisdom of the universe. And I continue to pray that each and every one of you, your friends, your family, all of your neighbors and relatives, and all of your relations, past, present, and to come, will learn to accept and receive and share the knowledge and the blessings of the universe. And until next time, my friends, ween! Put out your lights on the tombstones for God's sakes, because the dead can't see in the dark. Think about it. My friends, I love you, I do. And until next time, happy dreams, be safe, stay healthy. And from South Georgia, TTFN, ta-ta for now. Bye, y'all.